Okay, thank you, Christine.
Լավ, շնորհակալություն Քրիստինե։
Really interesting sharing
Իրապես
various
դետալական ներկայացման համար տարբեր հայաստանյան համայնքների մասին։ Հիմա ասում ենք երրորդ պանելին, որը վերաբերում է տեխնիկական մարտահրավերներին եւ հնարավորություններին։
By the time, by now, I think you might have heard enough about communities to know that there is no single, I mean, no communities are the same. It depends on the uniqueness of the community. There is no single technological solution for all community networks. That is why, as we have heard from our sharings, I mean, they all use different technologies. They all have different needs, and they all generate income in different ways. So the best technology that's working best for any community is the one that satisfies the needs of all the community members, right? So and that clearly differs from one community to another. So the choice of technology comes into the question, like at what point do communities choose what kind of technology it uses? So let's hear more stories from our speakers, and let's invite them to out here today, and we'll start with Ucha Seturi, Executive Director, CEO of Mountain Community Network. Thanks, Ucha. And then Halil Ibrahim, cybersecurity expert and community networks engineer with the Internet Society Kyrgyzstan chapter and Kyrgyz community networks. Let's also invite Georgios Kleisiaris from Sarantaporo, nonprofit organization. Let's also have Igor Mkrtumyan, president of the Internet Society Armenia chapter. We'll also have Thomas Mazejian, Chief Information Officer of Mtis Armenia. Welcome. Yeah, feel free to take one of those. Last, but of course not least, we have joining us remotely Natalia, Vicente, Director of Public Affairs of GSOA. Just to make sure Natalia is online with us. Yeah. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right. So this panel is all about technical matters and how you went about dealing with them in your own situations, right? So I want to start off with maybe some questions, and if needed, do raise any questions. If there's anything you can't follow, and we'll try and explain, whether there's any technical terms that we can share more about. We can do that. We don't necessarily have to wait until the end. Okay. Why don't we start off with Ucha? Yeah. So as we heard from this morning sharing, Georgia did 2 projects and they have been running for almost 7 years now. So what technologies did you use for the middle mile and the last mile? And in the process of implementing the technologies, what are some main challenges that you faced because I know the community projects are Tusheti and the Shaf Kefsurati project.
Yes, difficult to pronounce. Yes. Actually, when you're using money, you have to try to find the cheap solution, but reliable. So that's why I think it's not advertisement of these two companies. We choose Microtech and Ubiquity as most reliable hardware. The prices are also okay, so that's why we choose this radio point-to-point technology, because 7 years ago, demand was quite different. It was not so high as we met for the last 3 years in Pshawkar-Sureti area. So right now we are using this point-to-point technology, and capacity for middle mile is up to 2 gigs.
2 gigabit'e koşu
Users, but all of these users, most of these users, about 95% are small hostels and small micro businesses for hospitality business action. So, but situation in Pshawkar is a little bit different because we have up to 500 families and the users. And also we have some border service authority as a user, also protected area authority. So we have some legal entities from the state, and also schools and some ambulances. Ambulances also. So in this capacity, we started with 1 gig connectivity, and we started with point-to-point, biggest thing for 42 kilometers. But about 2 years ago, traffic was not enough. That's why we started project with fiber optics to connect 2 mine cities. So with support of Internet Society, in-kind supporters, but my supporter was Internet Society, ISO Global. We started this project, so right now we are using as radio point-to-point and point-to-multipoint technologies, also fiber optics, and we have to finish fiber optics. It's almost done, just need to fix because of some weather conditions. We have to replace 2 kilometers to finalize, to connect all mine cities of the region to the mine backbone, to the to the mine backbone, to give the internet. But radio is working properly.
Very interesting. So you said there were some legal challenges.
No, not at all, because I can say that Georgian legislation is fully harmonized with European legislation. So we now have, we don't need any licensing, permission, right of ways, nothing. We just did the authorization online actually, and it gives the rights to use the free frequencies 2.4 and 5, as in the Europe everywhere. So also to use the right of way, we just send letter to the road authority, and they give permission to use infrastructure near the road without, for free, without any challenge. Actually, to be honest, local state, central state, even border service guys, we are helping with helicopters in winter, because to reach the sites is impossible. Almost I have about 150 hours of the flight experience on the helicopters with border service guys. Everyone is involved because we are doing something very important for these people. It's not internet, it's not for surfing and have some, it's just at least to have connection with each other. So I can say that legislation is fully open and ready for this, and no any some bottlenecks from the bureaucracy or whatever. So everything was very smoothly and running still in the same way.
Okay, but it's good to know there is legal certainty for community networks to operate, and of course that helps with the sustainability aspects of the community network, because you can, you can have a business model that generates income.
I can say just one case, because we are covering mostly protected areas, so they have special regime. It was a very strange regulation to everyone who are using the square meter of the protected areas for some infrastructure, have to pay 1,000 Georgian laris per year. This is about $2,000 US to compare. So after our claims, they changed legislation, and if you're doing something for community, the price fee for this using is zero. So they changed legislation for us, I can say. And after 2 months, we get support from Ministry of Economy. That's guys just move forward then to your job, and we are standing behind of you. Very good example.
Right. Okay. So can you tell us about the business model and the business sustainability aspects of the of running the network? And yeah.
Oh, actually, we have two different models in two different areas, because in Tusheti we have hostels, small businesses. So these, for example, about 50 small hostels are covering fee charges of the next 10 people who are not doing business for the internet. So it's enough for business sustainability, and everything is okay. We don't need some extra money for this. Just in case of some force majeure, for example, lightning or some whatever, we need to replace dishes, and they're okay. In another model in Pshal-Khersoreti, we had different model, because most incomes are related with the two big cities. Because in big cities, people always live there, don't traveling because of animals, and you know this transhumaning when you're traveling for winter, and because animals feeding and etc. So these two main cities and about 200 families are covering and creating business sustainability of the business model of Pshal-Khersoreti, the community network. So the incomes are enough to cover connectivity fees, to cover salaries, because we are paying salaries for 5 locals because they are employed inside of the mountain community network, and also saving something for unexpected situations. Yeah. So I can say right now that we raised a little bit because for some changes of the currency inside the country. It's about 5 lari, it's just $2, additional $2, but we also increase speed. Speed right now is a 15 megabit per second per, it's minimum for minimum amount of the for the families. But if you have a small business, in this case, you have to pay double, and the speed is also double. It's up to 30 per small business.
Right. Okay.
And so, one good example to compare. One big mobile operator, we are delivering to border service special point service for 7,000 laris per month. After our involvement, I can say that we are delivering the same service with a triple speed for 70 laris, because no discrimination, etc. So we did a lot, not also for the local government, also border service guys, because they are also doing very important job for my homeland. So we can understand why they are helping and supporting us also from their side.
Right. Thanks, Ucha. So, but going back to the technology side, so you mentioned the Tusheti uses fiber optics. Right?
No, Tusheti impossible to have fiber optics,
okay,
because they are on another part of the Caucasian mountains. So when I started with Mimino, it's an old Soviet movie, and main players are Armenians and Georgians. That's why maybe it's more or less understandable for local community, also for audience. This area impossible to reach because 7 months is closed, and to do the fiber optics there is no clue, because landslides, and it's impossible to, even the electricity is not going there.
Right.
So just one choice is solar power, and so that's it's impossible. But in different areas, the main road is coming and not closing. That's why we started to connect these two main cities. This is Mararoskari and Barisaho to the main fiber optics, and create also business technical sustainability of our network, because right now we have 2 connections via fiber optics and via the radio.
Right. Okay.
Yes.
So clearly it depends on the location and the environment of the community for you to decide what kind of technology suits the network best. Great. Yeah. And of course, the choice of technology has a direct bearing on sustainability? Yeah.
Adrian, you don't have to be so polite because internet society and your part and the people from your side, step by step together, we were doing this together.
Yeah.
We started, I can say, the Jane Kofish is joining us. I remember tomorrow, Massimiliano Stucchi, Kevin. I don't want to miss someone. All these people, we are helping us almost every day. Technology, business sustainability, fees, solutions. So, so thank you, Internet Society, for this huge job, because it was not only technical and knowledge sharing, it was also political support, because when Internet Society came to Georgia and met our officials, it started actually to next project. Childcare Solidarity was related with this. That's why state gave this support and that funding. So all this stuff, every country's experience is very unique. So that's why I can say that maybe you can share something, but I can say that topology, geography, and users, habits, I don't know, a lot of small directions inside that makes country experience unique and different from each other.
Thank you for, of course, being a great partner, and to all of you, of course, because the Internet Society's mission believes that the internet is for everyone, and let's try and make that happen. Thank you, Ucha. Let's move on to Natalia, who's joining us remotely. So recently I feel all of us might have heard a thing or two about satellite and LEOs, but actually as a technology, it's been around for quite some time. I was wondering, Natalia, the telecom and ICT ecosystem, and in particular the satellite industry, is going through really rapid changes. I want to get your views on, whether this is the time and opportunity when we are going to close the digital divide with the help of such, technologies, and what role can the satellite communication industry play? Yeah, thanks.
Thank you very much, and I hope you can all hear me loud and clear. And thank you very much, Isaac, because for me it's a pleasure to be here today, even if it's in long distance. I wish I could have been there in person, but it's a busy week, I have to be honest. But indeed, I when I was invited and I thought about what to share today here, I think with Isaac, we as GSOA, for those that are not very familiar with our association, we represent satellite operators that are either local or regional or provide services worldwide. And indeed, they have services in the multi-orbit altitude, so from LEOs and MEOs and GEOs. And I think this shows precisely the richness of the services that are being provided in satellite. And I think there is a lot of synergies, especially on the objectives that we have as associations and as organizations, that is connecting the unconnected, no? And it's precisely the topic of the day. So we have clearly understood that in today's society, we rely on connectivity, and that connectivity brings opportunities to the citizens, but still we know that there's a 2.7 billion that are unconnected. And that's where we need to focus to a certain extent our efforts on how to bridge this digital divide. And as you were saying, indeed, I think that we are living a transformative moment for the ecosystem, the telecoms ecosystem in general. But I can say that the satellite industry is living an unprecedented growth, and it's a transformative and innovation moment for us because of the different services on the different altitudes, but also because of the business models that we are facing or we are creating together with other technologies between the different satellites. And in fact, there has been a study by VVA and LS Telcom that shows that satellite broadband users are going to double by 2030. And this is going to be 500 million people connected also through satellite. So we know that satellite broadband is bringing benefits everywhere in the world already. And I think from now on, it's only about what are going to be the next innovations and how are we going to connect those other people, not just with satellite. I think the future is clearly a mix of technologies, and it's going to be how to find the best solution for each of the cases. As the previous speaker, he was very clearly saying, it depends on the geographical areas, it depends on the topography, but it depends very much also on the use cases. How are we going to use this technology? What is the impact that it will have? And this is the concept that I think it's very important also, that comes from United Nations on the meaningful connectivity. It's not necessarily about matching speeds or matching the last trend of networks. It's about finding that meaningful connectivity and at the same time continue the innovation. So more and more we see this synergy, especially between satellite and terrestrial networks. And we see also, we have been talking a lot about 5G. And if you're familiar with the 3GPP and the release 17, so that means that the non-terrestrial networks component on 5G. But I think there is a next step that we have to take, and it's when we talk about this 6G. And I think it's the first time that we have really considered, okay, we cannot do this alone, none of us. So we need to define what do we need from each of the technologies to actually cover everyone, to actually bring that connectivity everywhere for the needs of all the citizens, no? And I think that moment that there has been this change in mindset, we are understanding that we all have a role to play, and we all have different qualities that are the ones that bring that richness to the connectivity. So I definitely think that the optimum solution lies on this combination. But we also need to have the appropriate policy framework for this to happen, the appropriate spectrum allocations for the different technologies, and not to try to adapt ourselves to a one technology kind of a approach, but more to see, okay, I think we are all excited about what we can bring to the table now. I think the technology is there. I think the policy is getting there, but especially I think the mindset is there. We understand better all the qualities of the LEO constellations. We also understand better all the qualities of the GEO satellites that are providing services. And we are understanding better how all of these services apply to different realities. So for example, today I was talking with someone and we were talking about the airplanes and the aeromotive and maritime. They were saying, yeah, but that's again the entertainment and it's the ones that have already the connectivity. And I was saying, yes and no, because we also have to consider the safety when we talk about airplanes, for example. But we also need to consider the agriculture examples in the rural areas. How can connectivity improve their lives and not only focus on the urban use cases? And I think when we think about all of this together is when we really will make the step of bridging the divides, digital, economical, gender, all of those will improve once we understand that we are an ecosystem that needs to work together. And I think this shows very much in all the community networks efforts, because it's precisely that, finding the solution for the different realities. So I will start a little bit with those thoughts.
Great, thank you, Natalia. You talked about 5G and 6G even, which is a up and coming technology. I wanted to follow up with a question. How can we best foster innovation while ensuring that new services like 5G and 6G will not create an even larger digital divide? Thank you.
Yeah, I like this question very much because I've received it also not long time ago while talking about the topic of 6G. I think it's a change also for us to be the ones trying to push a little bit technology also farther for ourselves. But at the same time, satellite has always been the one advocating for bridging that digital divide and how to ensure that we don't create a chasm and a bigger difference and an elite and the ones that do not have, no? And I think it is precisely that focus that we have, or a little bit of an obsession with the 5G. No, everyone needs 5G, and we forgot a bit on, and what about the others that do not have any G, no? And I think with the years we have realized that has changed, but still we need a little bit more of that effort to happen. And with this, I mean, partially what I was saying before, we need to forget this obsession on having the last trend and more, let's get all connected and from there going forward. But I still think that the 6G approach of thinking about holistically about the solutions, thinking about the different use cases, think everything on the same box, let's say, and then let's take what we need from there is what is going to allow us. It's not going to, for me, how the future is going to be built is not anymore about the ones that do not have connectivity and the ones that have 6G. I think it's very much thinking about what are the needs for everyone. And indeed, I think that for that to happen, and I think this is an opportunity moment for everyone, but I think we need that approach to a flexible and progressive policy framework that allows that innovation to happen. And I think we need also to have a clear view of what are our objectives and for that to put the means to that in our case. And I know that we are a little bit focused on the spectrum discussion because it's a WRC year, but of course to allow the necessary spectrum for that innovation to happen, for those services that we rely on to continue changing lives as they are, and indeed to still innovate a bit on how can we do things differently that will have a real impact in the lives of the citizens.
Great, thank you, Natalia. All right, from space and satellites, let's come back to Armenia. Let's turn our attention to Igor, if you're ready. Yeah, Igor Mkrtumyan, president of the Internet Society Armenia chapter. I understand Igor has a presentation prepared, so if we can share that screen. There you go. Thank you.
Շնորհակալություն այս հնարավորության համար։
Thank you for this opportunity. I want to say that about the activity of our organization, which is the Armenian chapter of Internet Society. We're present in Armenia to support connecting the people to internet who don't have this opportunity. And the demand is extremely high. We keep talking about sound. Healthy people having no internet contact, but there are numerous people in Armenia having no internet connectivity, but it's of very high importance for them. We shouldn't forget about these people. The focus of our organization is drawn to these people and the vulnerable groups. Can you switch? Yes, from the beginning, I want to say about our activity, which is dedicated to blind and visually impaired people. These are several thousands of people in Armenia. During the most recent war, 500 young people were added to this number who became blind because of this war. And we wanted to assist these people somehow. And we initiated to create center of access to internet for them.
Next one.
With that, we created the Center for Access to Internet, and these people had an opportunity. There are also trainers, coaches, who help them to develop their skills and apply them in this field. And our organization provides you for small tools for them to be able to teach these blind people and visually impaired people to use internet. It's equipped with state-of-the-art technology and professionals. Of course, it requires special software to have sound communication with the blind people, and the blind people, by responding to these sound instructions, for them to be able to work on the internet. Working with them, we created a group of these young people who were partly blind and visually impaired, and when they decided internet radio for blind and visually impaired people.
And with our support, this website has been created. It is called radiogids.am. There we have a lot of audio records, how blind people can overcome psychological problems, how we can do other things. So a lot of other audio messages that help them to be able to use different things in their life, different services. Also, we created a studio of records for them. It's equipped with quite modern devices, equipment, so they can record their messages, and then we place them on our website, which is always is on net, which is called radiogids.am. And there was a lot of feedback on this. After the collapse of Soviet Union, that building, three-story building, was never renovated, has been never renovated. When we created the center, so Rita Sargsyan visited us, the ex-first lady, and she was really impressed. And she asked Ara Abrahamyan, who is, a well-known tycoon from Moscow, from head of the Union of Armenians in Russia. So, and she asked him to renovate the whole building, and Ara Abrahamyan renovated the whole building. Now, our little step helped to renovate the whole building, and now they can work in quite good conditions. So this radio project was considered in 2017 by WSIS the best project. The other vulnerable groups that we were about, that is the focus of our attention. These are the pensioners, and you see the Hrazdan Pensioners Club, and we donated them 3 computers connected to internet, and we manage these people to involve in a modern life, to use internet, the benefits of internet. And by this, so we had our input in this. So next direction of our activity is the digital skills for vulnerable groups. So we are organizing training courses for computer literacy, internet literacy, social media. We explain people what does it mean Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, how to use WhatsApp, Viber, Telegram, Messenger apps. also we tell them about internet hygiene. This is a direction that is extremely important when people start to work with internet. So internet, in addition to benefits, it has also dangers. So people have to be aware of those dangers. And so this awareness helps them, because 2-3 years ago, we witnessed how in Armenia, 2 young ladies from different marzes, they committed suicide because they were involved in this criminal internet structures. So that means that we have also to focus our attention and to train people how to handle internet and how to avoid those hazards. Also, we support the refugees. Here we showed how we donated 3 computers to the refugees from Hadrut, from Karabakh. You know that after war, Hadrut was occupied by Azerbaijan, and people were completely left without any means of living. They became refugees or IDPs, internally displaced people. So when we help them with the computers and internet. Also, we support disabled soldiers who were injured, wounded, injured, or this young person has lost his leg, his hand is injured, and we donated a notebook. This is an example. Also, we have helped a couple of other soldiers. We donated them computers and we connected them to internet. So this process is an ongoing process, and those vulnerable groups are in the focus of our attention. Recently, we applied for a grant to provide training to disabled people by war, to provide them internet training. About 40 war veterans, injured war veterans, to teach them programming, C# and the database, etc. So they can find jobs and work in-house from their homes, and we hope they will get that grant, and that also within the frame of that grant will provide them computer, will take care of their internet connection, also will help them to bring them back into active life to get employment.
Next slide.
Also here, now we are implementing a project, and the goal of that project is to create community internet centers in Lori Mars, in Lori province of Armenia. So the centers, they have to be based on digital libraries, and those digital libraries, they have to have broadband internet. They should be equipped by the computers provided by us and Wi-Fi routers. Because when we create this opportunity, we allow all the library visitors to come with their notebooks and gadgets and smartphones and come to that kind of library and use all the services available. Christina spoke that they're planning, the operators union is planning to create these kind of community centers based on the arm post centers, high post centers. We are planning to create those centers based on rural libraries, because rural libraries are cultural centers. And when we equip those libraries with with the modern devices, we give chance to use internet, all the visitors to use internet, utilize. Look, today, current library is hard to imagine without internet connectivity, because the wealth of knowledge is on internet. That is why we definitely have to create for the libraries, those centers. So the community centers based on libraries will allow the whole community to visit the library and utilize these possibilities. I think this is a big importance. We're going to connect 14 libraries in Lori Mars, and also we are planning to repeat this project in other Marses in upcoming future. Also, we applied for another grant for Shirak Mars, and there we are going to deal with 42 rural libraries to provide the same kind of services, to create centers, internet centers. And today's goal, our current goal is this, and that's what we're doing now.
Is that all? Yes. Now,
In addition to that, we have created the management software for managing digital library. It's an easy soft, light soft, and it can be operated even using Pentium 4 computers. But the software that have been already created and are offered by the international structures, they require at least for AI5 with the 8 megabyte RAM. And these kind of computers, it's impossible to have in rural libraries. So that's why we created this light software, and it's possible to operate on Pentium 4. And these Pentium 4s, you are getting free of charge, like donations from different organizations. They just get rid of these old computers. And now here on this photo, you see a librarian. I imagine these kind of good-looking women are working in our rural areas, are librarians. That means that we need to make even more endeavors to help our villages, to bring them to the level that they can utilize modern technologies. So this is it.
That's all. Okay. Yes.
I would like to express gratitude for your patience and for your attention. Thank you.
Especially on the rural libraries, I would like to ask you one question. What kind of technical, since we're on the topic of technology, I wanted to ask, like, what kind of, did you face any technical difficulties when transforming rural libraries into like community internet centers? Yeah.
Well, you see, the main problem is so we're providing broadband internet free of charge for 6 months. After that, the community should care about paying for we have a communication with the service provider, and they promised us to diminish the price as much as possible. But anyway, the community should care in the future to pay for the internet connection. So that is the main problem that we should, and I see that it's the problem of all communities is getting the money, raising the money, funds for just making their project alive.
Right. Yeah.
That's it.
Okay. I'm interested. We talked a bit about the government's role in in the morning. I wanted to ask what's the local municipalities' attitudes towards your initiatives?
This is a good question because yes, Hayren Palaskane listen.
I'll say it in Armenian to be heard by everybody. So those communities, village communities or municipalities, they are a little bit jealous when we are bringing some donations without telling them in advance. And we came to a conclusion that we have to, before starting a project, we have to talk to the community leaders, village mayors, town mayors, and explain them what's the meaning of this project and make them our partners because they are jealous. And they may create even problems if we ignore them. That is why it's very important to start the implementation of those projects together from the municipalities and community center.
Yes, it's just finished. Thank you. Yeah, great. Really
Shashna called soon.
questions for Igor.
Shashna.
Feel free to raise them now. If not, let's move on to another speaker of ours. Thanks a lot, Igor. Let's move to Thomas, if you're ready. Thomas Mazejian, Information System Department Manager of Viva Mtis. Thomas, I wanted to ask you, what are some of the main technical challenges you have faced when setting up and then maintaining community networks in the country, in the underserved areas in the country? Yep, thank you.
First, I would like to thank you for having me in this panel discussion. And Adrian, I really would like to reiterate what has been stated several times about the technical part, whereby there is no one size fits all, right? I think each case should be studied technically speaking, and there should come, we should come up with different solutions. Now, depending on the geographical area, the terrain, what is the nearest point of interconnection, and whether there is enough capacity within that backhaul. So these are all the different challenges that faced when we are coming up with a solution, right? And of course, it's not only about the interconnection part, but also the last mile connectivity. Because that part is also very challenging, and someone has to do the job of connecting from that point, in which basically probably it's in the center of that community, to for each household or different let's say business centers or shops or schools, right? And I think we didn't really focus on something very crucial for running any such operation. It's not only about connecting those people, but then I think we have another other serious issues like the competencies. Like someone needs to do technical support. Someone needs to maintain all the cabling, the last mile connectivity, the routers, the access points. And it's not easy to find competencies, especially when we're targeting a small village with a couple of hundred people. And what are the chances that there will be the competencies in that village? Because if you do an analogy of what the community networks are trying to achieve, they're establishing some sort of a very small sized ISPs, right? And or mobile operator, although it's not mobile technically speaking, but it's a service provider, right? And any service provider, they do not only connect people, right? There is a customer support, there is a contact center, there are special dedicated engineers going on site and doing all the work. If there is some problem, they keep on monitoring the network. And after couple of years, there's the equipment will get old and they need to be replaced. I mean, who will do these functions? And this is a very critical technical issue that it needs to be tackled. And I don't think anyone, let's say if we take the example of Armenia, I don't think any engineer will be relocating from Yerevan to go and live, and it's like 100 kilometers away in a very small village. So, and getting paid what? A symbolic salary? That definitely it won't work. So this is yet another big challenge that we need to tackle. And mostly related to the human part of it, like the competencies part. And another challenge that it was like, I don't think it was, we really focused today, although some of my colleagues, they discussed that part. It's about the security part, the personal data, right? The privacy part. You know, again, these are like small villages, and the chances that the end users, they are competent enough in order to use the internet in a proper way, it's pretty low. So this is then whose job is this? Whose job is to protect those community members from malicious attacks, right? I think Igor just mentioned about the case that what happened with two, you know, I guess teenagers. So, well, I don't think we can ever tell that the internet was the culprit in this, but nevertheless, it's a kind of a sign that we need to be extra careful. So it means additional investment should be done on educating those people. It's not like just connecting, right? So connection, I think it has to be the least of our worries, right? That's the easiest part. Although by itself, it has so many different technical and financial challenges, but in overall environment, that's just part of it. And I think we need to have a more holistic approach rather than just say that, okay, we just connected some communities. Well, I could, specifically on Armenia, there are other like kind of technical challenges, like the power issues, like in many rural areas. Still, that's a big problem. We, you know, coming from a mobile operator, on a daily basis, we have outages. Definitely, we do have a backup generator. We do, in some locations, we have solar energy, which kind of like, you know, complements the power that we have from the state. But nevertheless, that's again a big challenge. So if there was a power outage, who will take care of that? And I've just like colleague from Georgia, he told that there are even areas, I think it was in Georgia or Kyrgyzstan, where they have no power supply at all. In Kyrgyzstan, yes. So that's even a, I cannot imagine like how, I think they should really appreciate if they have power first and then start like talking about, you know, there is something called the internet, right? So yeah, I think these are real serious challenges. Thank you.
Really interesting points you raised. Not all of them technical, some of them are human challenges, which are really important as well.
Which is somehow technical,
Yes,
right?
true.
Because we're talking about technical support.
Yeah.
But technical support doesn't happen by chance.
No.
You're relying on humans, right? And competencies and the skills and the knowledge and the expertise. Yeah.
I would like to follow up, Thomas, because you mentioned about the term backhaul and mobile, and I wanted to ask you, like, what can you spend a few minutes, introducing the key considerations when choosing what kind of hardware, software, and network architecture when implementing a community network? Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I think if we break down the technical part, like the pure technical implementation, there are three different areas: the hardware and software and the network part, right? So the hardware, we're talking about all the routers, the access points, the antennas, and the cabling, the fiber optics. Of course, I just want to mention that although the community networks is It's not like they are promoting a certain technology which has been already iterated several times. But I believe that we all understand that fiber optics is the best option, remains to be the best option. Now, if for any reason that's not possible, then we just go on to some other options. So these are the hardware part where, and of course to the last mile connectivity, where we need to provide to the end users, to the households, like some other additional devices and switches, probably in case of schools, like if it's a shop or if it's a business center. Now for the software part, obviously someone has to monitor the software, the network, the devices, if something happens, if there was an outage, so that it will alert and someone has to take, do the troubleshooting and try to fix the problem. Now, with respect to the network also, well, first there has to be enough capacity in the backhaul. It's not mandatory that within that area that there is enough bandwidth so that it could serve the community. And there is another challenge as well, what we do when we want to scale up, right? So the scalability part of it. So it means that at some point they need to go back to whoever is providing the backhaul in order to add additional bandwidth, right? And of course, there are so many different technologies. I don't want to go into the jargon, like is it a point-to-point, is it point to multicast? I mean, probably it's like a Chinese to many of the audience, but yeah, there are different ways that we could provide the internet in to those communities.
Really interesting. Thank you, Igor.
It's a bit strange for me that nobody mentions Starlink as an alternative to community network. It seems like there is no there's no Starlink at all. Nobody mentioned that. What was the reason? My question is, yeah, I address it to all the panelists.
Yeah. So really interesting question. Have any of you, considered using, Starlink in your community networks, please?
That's the exact thing that I was going to tell about, because last year we had the commitment to connect the farthest villages in our country. They're actually in the plateau places, but it takes 150 kilometers to reach them. So you drive by car on a dirt road all day. And our initial plan was to launch point-to-point connections to connect them. But when we tried to test it and the radio propagation and other fog, other conditions didn't allow us to do, because they are above 3,000 meters and it gets cloudy all the time, and actually it's unreliable. And so the second option was to connect them with the fiber again, and also either we have to throw it on the ground or dig a channel for the cable. So that's also impossible. And in that region, we also had some trials of the OneWeb space technology, but that also didn't work. So as you mentioned, we are hopefully waiting to arrival of Starlink, because they are promising to start operating in Kyrgyzstan in next 2 years. So if they would start operating and our government would allow some regulations, and we hopefully will start using this technology. If that would start working, we would spend something like $5,000 for the terminals, and those villages would be connected easily. So.
There's several hands. George, did you have a hand on this?
I want to listen to Ucha too.
Actually, they did authorization in Georgia just 6 or 7 months ago. I mean, the Starlink, so they are Georgian operators also. But we had actually a few suggestions. The one was from Turkish side. with the same technology, almost same technology, to create backup for our mine sites on the high altitudes. That's why it was suggested for free. For example, I mean hardware, and the service fee was about $40 for 25 megabit per second, but just for backups, because it sometimes happens when because we have passes, 3 passes, and have hardware there. Sometimes it's because of cloud, because heavy snow, those working for a few days till this. So in this case. But I think Starlink will be much better, but it's a little bit expensive than, for example, Turkish offer. For legal entities, it's very expensive. I think it's good solution for emergency situation, but we don't have such emergency situation in Georgian Highlands. So let's see. But we have few choice. One choice is Starlink, which is still very good but expensive, and a little bit cheaper but less reliable Turkish side offer. So let's see. But I think it's a solution for oceans, for different part, but not for us.
See, we have a hand from online with Natalia, and then we go on to George. Sorry about that, George.
So if I may just, because this is clearly a topic that I'm interested in, and I think this is what I meant when I say that we are all understanding better the benefits of LEO constellations too. Starlink is one of the options for sure, and I think this has shown us the possibilities that are coming in the future. And I've been one of the people that has used it in my traveling, so it has worked perfectly. I think it is important to understand that there's a lot of other players also that are proposing different services, and indeed I think we need to again a bit think about what are the services that I need as a community. For example, there's also other services that do not need to be on LEO constellations. And I know from examples from Viasat, for example, that has what it's called community Wi-Fi. Also, EchoStar Hughes provides this kind of services that is a combination of backhauling with satellite and using Wi-Fi support in the earth. That at the end of the day, for the citizen, becomes a little bit of the same thing. You connect to a Wi-Fi hotspot and you have connectivity. And so I think these are the kind of examples that we need to continue thinking about. It's not that suddenly we just need the LEO constellations to solve all of our problems. We still need to think about that multi-orbit service. GSOA represents, as I said before, from OneWeb and Amazon and to Viasat and Inmarsat and Intelsat. So we have the whole community of satellites, and it is clearly very complementary. But I hope also that for those, and it's very nice to hear the experiences, what has worked and what hasn't worked, because I think that's the only way that we can learn, that even if something hasn't worked, that it doesn't preclude the fact of trying again with someone else, or trying a bit of a different approach, things like that can, at the end of the day, provide those solutions. So I'm very happy to continue the conversation also with anyone that is interested in the different solutions that satellite operators are providing, and also in the region, because I think it is quite exciting to see all the possibilities.
Okay, thank you, Natalia. George, did you want to say something on this, please?
I wanted to say that Starlink already offers its services in Greece. Actually, 1.5 years ago, we actually applied to have such a connection, but we decided to withdraw this application, not because it's not offering a good service. I think it's a great solution, especially for rural areas and islands, Greek islands, and a lot of people are using it already in Greece. But we decided to, let's say, save some resources in order to go to the fiber connectivity for backhauling. I think it is a long-term investment, and we focus at the moment all our energy towards that. Another concern, of course, it was the weather. When you have a very cloud weather or snowing weather, you might have connection. You might lose connectivity because of the obstacles. And one third reason is the latency. Of course, Starlink service is much better than services that existed before Starlink. Latency is much better, but still it's a lot it's bigger than fiber or point-to-point wireless links. So at the moment we decided we still have this option in the table, but we decided to focus on fiber connectivity.
That's interesting. So when you say you try to think long term and therefore consider fiber optics instead of LEOs or Starlink now, does it mean so the capex, the initial cost for broadband for fiber optics is higher, but you're going to recoup that over time? Is that what you mean?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
And it's more stable.
Right. Okay. Whereas for LEOs, there's an ongoing subscription fee that you have to pay every month. So that okay.
Also, I think they're providing private IPs, not public IPs.
Yeah.
And our organization is already member of RIPE NCC, and we have our own IPv4 and IPv6 addresses. And I think we might not be able to use those resources.
Okay.
Maybe this is some way to do that, but it's better have public addresses available in the first place and use them directly. So we decided to go this way.
Great, thank you. So, I see Natalia, you have a hand again, please.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but I had to intervene again because I would really like to still show a little bit of the other side of the coin. I think I really would like to encourage unconnected regions and unconnected areas to consider the possibility of satellite in all its different ways. So I hear that the weather, or it has caused problems in some occasions. There is clearly certain bands. There's C-band, for example, that is a very reliable band in which satellite services are being provided that do not have whether it's not a difficulty for it, but there's also very other bands in which services are provided and whether it's not an impediment. At the same time, if we look from our perspective, also terrestrial technology has certain limitations. One of them, it's a big investment, not only economical, but on time, that precisely you have to do a long-term vision to connect the unconnected people, while with satellite, it is quite a rapid solution that you could connect the people already. And I think in the terms of the latency, in this one, I would have to still make the point that latency is not an issue for a lot of the applications that we use day by day. Latency could be an issue for certain applications, but not for day-to-day life. And also, as I said, I think we need to think about the completeness of the services, not only about the direct, I mean, now we talk about direct to device even and so on from satellite, but the combination with Wi-Fi, the combination with terrestrial, the combination with all of the other technologies take away the latency, because you will have the service and you will not even notice any latency at all. We do use backhauling of satellite without knowing it. And I think fostering that and fostering those partnerships is for me, and of course it's my vision, but it's I think something that we need to encourage, and I really would be happy to continue with this discussion.
Lovely. Appreciate all the thoughts that have gone into this. Thank you, Natalia. But we're running a bit short on time. Let's move on to the next part of the session. Let's turn the mic to George, if you're ready. Yeah. I wanted to ask you, like, what are some of the main technical barriers you have faced in the community networks that you've built to be able to offer their services and to expand when needed?
Yes. When we first started our initiative, it was back in 2010. At that time, we were building a website, Sarantaporo.gr website. It was an idea I had with some relatives and friends from my village, Sarantaporo, and we wanted to develop the website and launch it in the summer in Sarantaporo Square during the summer festival. And then we realized, okay, how are we going to launch it when we don't have internet access in our village? That was back in 2010. Just to mention that in the village, there was already the pipe and the fiber in place, but the telcos, they didn't invest to set up the last part, the active hardware, in order to give the service to the village, because they thought that nobody would apply for a DSL connection. It doesn't worth the maintenance cost, so they didn't offer this service at all. At that time, we were giving a donation of hardware, wireless mesh routers, and we bought a 3G connection SIM card. Of course, it wasn't enough, but we managed to launch the website and to show to all the people that, you know, everybody was telling you there's no solution to bring internet here. We brought it in 1 month. We make it happen. Okay, it's not the fastest. It has some limits because after 3 days we had the data limit and we didn't continue, and we were waiting the next month in order to have a new data plan to have again connectivity. But it was a proof that we can do something about it. Since then, we deployed our wireless community network in 11 villages. Almost 200 households have internet access through our community network. We upgraded our infrastructure 3 times until now. Back in 2010, I used to have black hair. Now I'm having white hair. And still the problem is the same, the backhaul connectivity. Of course, at that time, just using the browser, browsing the internet and having access to your email, it was enough. But now, in 2023, the need for bandwidth, it's greater. Everybody's used to use streaming services, online streaming services, cloud services. They also need upload bandwidth. So to get back to your question, the main technical barriers we have is the options we have for backhaul connectivity. At the moment, we are doing this with point-to-point, wireless point-to-point links, sorry, which bring us to the nearest town, and there we have an interconnection with the internet backbone. So this is it's a challenge, and it will always be a challenge until I think we deploy our own fiber and finish with this problem once and for all. Another barrier, I think, it is engineering expertise. We need people, local people, to be trained in order to maintain the network and then expand it in new areas. When we first started, I didn't have, me and the other colleagues of mine, we didn't have the expertise to design, deploy, and maintain networks. Now we do have this. We have trained, we have some certifications in wireless and Ethernet technologies. Recently, me and Achilleas, we also had the fiber optics seminar. So it is a barrier, but it's something that you can do something about it. Another barrier is the lack of resilience. We saw that throughout these years, we saw that the community was expanding when they were seeing that we were upgrading the network. When they saw that we have internet bandwidth, we have new service. Everybody was coming, everybody was helping. We were deploying the network, everything was okay. But when some problems arise, we had some people starting concerning if this worth all the effort. So we try in our community network to make multiple routes. When we make a node, we make at least 2 wireless point-to-point links. So when a wireless link goes away, the network automatically reroutes all the traffic through the other link. Of course, it requires more invest in that, but it's something that has to be done. And one last barrier is that sometimes we also have some power outages. So we start considering deploying some technologies with solar kits in order to, when there is power outage, at least the network continues to offer its services.
You had a hand up briefly when George was talking about backhaul. Over to you.
A question for Natalia about the capacity of satellites. When we checked our traffic for community networks, it was mostly multimedia, and people are mostly interested to have the multimedia information files. Does this capacity enough to deliver multimedia content to the users via, for example, Starlink?
So I cannot speak on behalf of Starlink specifically. I do believe that precisely the capacity of the satellite is what is going to be able to allow all the data traffic that needs to go on with all the demand that is there. As an example, and I know we are getting far from that situation, luckily, but during the pandemic, for example, we saw that in many countries, the demand of more capacity from satellite was required precisely because everyone was working from home, everyone was using the internet in different ways. And I don't want to mistake the numbers, but in Japan, we saw a growth of, I don't want to say, but I think it was 100% more capacity that was required to be able to provide what the consumers needed. So if we see this, it's precisely because the capacity that satellite can provide, it's lightening and liberating a bit the traffic, let's say, or the traffic jams maybe on other networks. No, so indeed, I think it's not only Starlink, but especially also the backhauling from GEOs are liberating and are improving the quality of the experience.
Thank you. Let's get back to George.
Yeah.
Really interesting challenges you cited just now. So some backhaul. There's a lack of resilience that you talked about because of a lack of expertise. I wanted to ask you, how have you tried to overcome these challenges, and what do you think should be changed to address these?
What we have done first is to train ourselves. So we participated in trainings and seminars in order to get this expertise. The second is to share this expertise with our community members. So we ourselves make seminars for our members. And I think this helped a lot, especially in maintenance. As the colleague already mentioned, maintenance is a very big issue. For example, sometimes is something very minor, a cable not, it's not very in its port, it's not working okay. And the only thing that someone has to do is just to push it. But if you are 100 kilometers away, the cost for moving there and the time you consume, it's huge. But when you use the Telegram group there we are using with our community, you say, come on, could someone go to this node who is near to check the cable and check the port. And after some minutes or some hours, the problem goes away. So it's very important to have trained members on site in order to respond to such incidents.
Thanks a lot, George.
Yeah.
Let's move on to our last, but certainly not least speaker, Halil, Ibrahim. I know you have prepared a presentation for us, so let's.
We can skip the presentation. Yeah.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. I will just talk.
Okay. Sure.
Yeah, all the problems that our colleagues have are they persist in our system too, of course. In the beginning, we used to try to make everything perfectly, and last time when we deployed our fiber network, we had a very heavy snowfall, and all the cables were ripped off, and later we stopped doing it perfectly, and instead we switched the model of training everybody. So if some problems pops out, we fix it quickly. So that was instead the perfect solution, because trying to do it perfectly is, I don't know, the mother nature always wins. And so this is one of the problems that we are solving in this way. The other is that, as Igor mentioned, that, the George mentioned, the backhauls are in Batken region. We have single lines that go all through the countryside, and if some point rips off, all the villages die out. So it is not a community network scale problem. It's a problem in the scale of a region. So in the future, we are pushing agenda to develop more backup lines. So if some lines get cut off, the others would come into play. So that's our next plans for the future. I mentioned the satellite already. For now, all of our problems are limited to this. Then that's all for them.
Yeah. Okay. That's fantastic. Any questions for any of the speakers just now in Armenian or in English? Or if not, let's give a big hand to all of them. Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, thank you. Yeah. So if there's anything to take away, I feel it's the point that Thomas has raised just now. There's no one size fits all approach to community networks in terms of technology adoption. So we all talked about the different sets of challenges, and it's essential to understand the community need before deciding what technology to use. So thanks a lot for sharing all your thoughts today. Thank you. Yeah. So, yeah. Thank you. Yeah.